Today, on 100 Yards of Football, Vincent Turner, Mr. Football, does another deep dive as we go into the Big 12 and explore this year's preseason pick. This year, it will not be the winner of 6 straight Big 12 championships. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the first time in 7 years and in the Big 12's history. The Baylor Bears is the preseason pick to win the football league in the media poll. And Vincent Turner is going to give us his reasons why they're headed by Dave Aranda, the 2020 national champion and 25-year coaching veteran, is going to give Baylor the reasons why they can win the Big 12 right here on 100 Yards of Football.
If you like the video today, please comment and share it. I surely appreciate it here at 100 Yards Football. I'm Mr. Football Vincent Turner, the 901. Special thanks to my producer, Mr. Logan Landers, for making it happen for me this morning here on 100 Yards Football. The Baylor Bears, 2022. See, I got a little history with the Baylor Bears because people don't know. If you're the first time seeing me here on 100 Yards Football, I know about this university out of Waco, Texas. See, I attended the University of Arkansas from 1978 to 1981. And Arkansas was in the Southwest Conference at that time. In my 4 years on campus up there in the Hill in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And the Southwest Conference, to me, is almost equivalent to what the SEC is of today. It was football. Schools from Texas and one school from Arkansas. And when I was up there those 4 years, the Baylor Bears were a tough out. Grant Teff and some of the players, Mike Singletary with the eyes, Walter Abercrombie, Van McElroy, Jay Jeffries, Gerald McNeil. The Bears were off the charts, and they were a football program. Then you had Alfred Anderson, Evan Randall, Santana Dawes, Thomas Everett, Fred Miller, Gary Baxter. Making no bones, Baylor ain't been no what we say top 10, top 5 program year in, year out, but they got some good school history. Now let's talk about the Bears. Dave Aranda. It's a miracle that he's still at Baylor coaching. I know this gentleman was a hell of a football coach when he was at LSU as the defensive coordinator. Now, I'm going to take a step back when he was at Wisconsin as the D coordinator. Then he came over to LSU. It was the D coordinator of that great national championship team a couple of years ago. They sent 14 players to the NFL. Christian Fulton, Grant Delpit, Kayvon Chason, Patrick Queen, Derek Stingley Jr. this year. Them some ballers, bro. And Dave Aranda had a big part in producing those players. But he took the job at Baylor. I understand that he wanted to get his foot in the water. 2020, they went 2-7. But I told somebody, that young man of Mexican descent out of California, Southern California, it's something special about him. He a football coach. And the thing about Dave Aranda that the Baylor football nation should be really, really impressed with and be proud of, he's a coach that's never in the limelight. Seems like he can handle everything with poise. And he's quiet. He don't really say anything. And he has a saying, what's in the past is in the past. It's an opportunity every day. Think about the Bears went 2-7 in 2020, his first year, the pandemic year. But last year, they went 12-2. First time in school history. Won the Big 12 championship. Beat Ole Miss in the bowl game. Ended up ranked number 5 in the country. And I'm very surprised that he's still the head coach of Baylor University. Because let me tell you something, Baylor. In the next few years, maybe after this year, I hope y'all got a lot of money down in the bank. I hope y'all got a truck, a boatload. Because Dave Aranda is coming, man. hell of a football coach, had 4 players drafted in the top 100 of the NFL draft this year. 4 players that went in the top 100. Traquan Thornton, Jalen Petrie, Terrell Bernard, JT Woods. This football team is special, man. And the thing about Mr. Dave Aranda, what I love about him so much while he's ascending. See, football is a very simple sport. As the great Bobby Butler, who's off today with us at 100 Yards Football, 12-year event of the Atlanta Falcons, royalty with Florida State University. If you listen to Bobby on our platforms all the time, he said you can get the Ferraris, you can get the Corvettes, you can get all of them, the Cadillac trucks, the Lexus trucks, the Bentleys. But can you build on both lines of the scrimmage? And the Baylor Bears coming into 2022 are real strong on both lines of the scrimmage, offensive line and defensive line. I'm going to start with the quarterback. He's a Dave Aranda player. Blake Shopping out of Shreveport, Louisiana. Replaced the starter, Gary Bohannon, who is transferred now. Mr. Shopping beat him out in spring practice. But think about this. The young man came in last year, started the Texas Tech game, had a decent game. But what I liked about him, redshirt freshman, waited his time. Unfortunately, he had to get an opportunity due to an injury. But on the biggest stage, the Big 12 championship game, MVP, 3 touchdowns, completed 17 straight passes. Can't get no bigger than that. Then went into the Sugar Bowl and led his team to a 21-7 win over Ole Miss. And won the job fair and square in the spring. So Baylor has, on the offensive side, a very good football player that's under the center. Now, they lost a very good running back in Tristan Ebert that went to the NFL. But let me tell you something. Mr. Tay Mac Williams and Mr. Craig Williams, I know y'all not really experienced, but it's time to step up. Opportunity. But what I like about the Bears is that offensive line. They returned every starter this year from last season. This year, everybody's coming back. They only gave up 18 sacks, but what I was impressed with, they averaged 219 yards running the football. When you do that, you're going to win on a high level. Keep talking about the offense. That line. Connor Gavin came back this year, could have been a first-round pick, came back at left tackle. He's a stud. Grant Miller is a stud. Khalil Keefe is a stud. Oh, man. Moses Jeffrey is a stud. Baylor is very strong. They might have the best offensive line in the country. Everybody's talking about what they're going to do with the wide receiver position. They lost Traquan Thornton, 4'3" guy. Bill Belichick has him down there with the New England Patriots now. But that's all right. They bring back a 6-year guy, Gavin Holmes, who missed last year. But he's coming back in 2020. He had 33 receptions. But make no bones. I want you to listen to this name. His name is Amari Whitefield. One of the best young freshman receivers in the country last year on the high school level. 119 receptions, 2,700 yards, 26 touchdowns. Don't worry about it, Baylor. Y'all going to be out here at the receiver position. Now over to the defensive side of the ball. This is where Mr. Aranda makes his money. Where he's a specialist at. In 2 years since he's been the head coach of Baylor, Baylor's had 44 takeaways. When you coaching at that high level, you coaching some football, man, and your players are responding. Then I go back to the last game. We always go back to the last moment in your life or the last game you played. In the Sugar Bowl, this defense had 10 sacks. Getting pressure on the quarterback. T.J. Franklin at the defensive end, NFL talent. Gabe Hall at the defensive end, NFL talent. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the young man's name, but he's one of the top 3 defensive players in the country. His initials are S.I. No question about it. Potential first-round NFL talent. At the linebacker position, that show you how much influence Mr. Aranda has across the country. Dylan Dorr was the second leading tackle last year for Baylor, 6'3", 242 pounds. He decided to transfer. He's from Iowa City, Iowa. Was with the Iowa Hawkeyes, who were pretty good last year in the Big Ten. But Mr. Aranda got him to transfer to Baylor, and last year he was second team on the team in tackles with 45. And he had one sack at 6'3", 242. Another NFL talent. And then in the secondary, we up here in SEC country, as I live here in Douglasville, Georgia. I'm about 30 miles from downtown Atlanta. So every day when you get up and you talk about college football, you talk about Georgia. Tuscaloosa is about 2.5 hours west this way from where I live at. Then you got Clemson, the ACC. And all these schools have great secondary people. And then Georgia, of course, they got Kelly Ringo, who's supposed to be the top corner in 2022 in all of college football. But make no bones. There's a guy down in Texas by the name of Al Walcott. Last year, 3 interceptions, five pass breakups. But he was a star. And the Sugar Bowl, 96-yard interception return. Them Jets, 4.38 guy. Devin Neal is a player. Mark Milton is a warrior. Christian Morgan is a warrior. And they lost Jalen Petrie last year. And this secondary had 19 interceptions. Even though they lost Jalen Petrie, they're going to be still strong on the back end defensively. This is a very balanced football team, the Baylor Bears. They got Oklahoma in reboot. Because Brent Venables, you got something down there in Waco to handle. They got Texas, don't know what they're going to be. But I'm going to tell you, Dave Aranda is ascending. And right now, to me personally, he's one of the top 5 college football coaches in America. Boy, he riding like the wind down there in Waco. And just to show you how great a coach, it's all about development, right? He got to Baylor. Baylor was on the backtrack, man. And Baylor's always been that program that's been good and been stable and consistent. But when Dave Aranda took that job, the first thing I said, why we don't wait on the Nebraska job that might come open? He'd be great out there in Oregon. He's from the West Coast, California, YA. Then I said, he might want a challenge down there in South Carolina. And then here recently, LSU came back and offered him everything. LSU. But he decided to stay like Baylor. I like to ask him that question, why? But I know this. He know how to develop football players. And right now, you look at his football team, they are very strong. Once again, they might be the most balanced football team in the country. He's got at least 6 or 7 guys that's going to go into the draft next year. And we're not even talking about the Baylor Bears like that on a national level. With a break here and there, I wouldn't be surprised if we be talking about them in the college football playoffs if Blake Shapen can play at a high level. And if their receiving core can step up offensively, they got a defense, man. 44 takeaways in 2 years. And I almost forgot to mention this. Defensively, as I just mentioned that great defense, they added a guy named Jackson Player. He was 2-time All-AAC All-Conference at Tulsa. From Midway High School down there in Waco. He wants to come home. He might be the most unsung, underrated football player in the country. He going to be down there playing with that defense now. He's got 23 tackles for losses in his career, 7 sacks playing at Tulsa. Think about what he's going to do when he's playing with a high-level NFL-type talent defense. Jackson Player, remember that name. But getting back to Mr. Aranda, man, I love the guy. Chill bumps. Baylor Football Nations, you should be proud. As I mentioned just earlier in the preview, I hope y'all got a lot of money. I hope y'all can go break several banks down there in Waco. Because that's what's going to be able to keep that young man now. Because trust me, Baylor is not going nowhere. Brent Venables, I know you took the job at Oklahoma. Your last day before you moved to the SEC. You better get Oklahoma out and reboot. Texas, Steve Sarkisian, this your last year probably in the Big 12. You got everything over here, everywhere, going everywhere. You better watch them Baylor Bears. And by the way, Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy, I know you got Spencer Sanders coming back. Very good football player at the quarterback position. But make no bones, it's going down in Waco. It's going down in Waco. It's going down. Dave Aranda has arrived on the national level. And I wouldn't be surprised after this season, being at Baylor, I wouldn't be surprised if some NFL teams come calling for Mr. Dave Aranda. I like what he say, baby. It's an opportunity each day. The past is the past. Put the last 24 hours behind you. This Baylor Bears team is a good football team, brother. Very good football team. So if you like the video today, please come in and share it. I'd like to give special thanks to my producer, Mr. Logan Landers. Thank you to my man who brought me up today, Mr. Mark B. Bass. And you know I got to go with something from Texas when I talk about a Texas school, especially an old school from the Southwest Conference. It's the great Christopher Cross out of San Antonio. And right now, Dave Aranda is riding like the wind. It is the night. My body is weak. I'm on the run. No time to sleep. I got to ride like the wind to be free again. Dave Aranda is going to be free again down there at Baylor University. Watch out, Big 12. Don't worry. Dave Aranda's time. Be blessed. 100 yards football. I'm Vincent Turner, the 901.